Good afternoon. The Committee on Health, Land, Justice, and Culture is now calling this confirmation hearing to order. Today is Thursday, August 8, 2024. The time is now 3:01 p.m. In compliance with open government law, notices for these public hearing was published in the Guam Daily Post and posted to the Government of Guam public notice portal on Thursday, August 1st for the 5-day notice and Tuesday, August 6th for the 48-hour notice. Notices were also sent by email to all senators and main media broadcasting outlets, and this hearing is being live streamed on Guam's legislature's YouTube channel. So general rules of conduct: individuals testifying shall first be recognized by the chair before speaking and begin by stating your name for record-keeping purposes. In an effort to minimize distractions while someone is testifying, the committee asks those present to please be quiet and refrain from moving around within the public hearing room. Additionally, we have asked protocol to keep the doors closed. Individuals who are presenting oral testimony are invited to submit written testimony afterwards in order to ensure their input is accurately transcribed. After providing testimony, panelists will be allowed to speak again in direct response to questioning or invitation of a senator who has the floor, or at the discretion of the chair. And after all have testified, senators will be recognized for questioning of the panel. This hearing is to collect testimony, not debate, back and forth, or argue with participants, and berating of any witnesses will not be allowed. So the agenda for this afternoon is to hear testimony on the reappointment of Dr. Lisa D. Flores, MD, to serve as a member of the Criminal Injuries Compensation Commission for a term of 4 years from the date of confirmation. I'd like to acknowledge my colleague, Senator Roy Kanata, for being here today. So I'm here on behalf of the speaker, who unfortunately is ill. So we will move on to the agenda item to hear testimony for the reappointment of Dr. Lisa Flores, MD, to serve as a member of the Criminal Injuries Compensation Commission for a term of 4 years from the date of confirmation. And before we hear from the nominee herself, I would like to just read into the record some of the powers of this commission and the purpose of this commission. And so those who have been a victim of crimes that are listed under 8 GCA 161.55 are eligible for criminal injuries compensation pending adjudication by this commission. And just so for the public to know what those crimes are that are listed, I'm just going to read them off so to get a better idea of what this commission does. And so some of the crimes that are listed are aggravated murder, manslaughter, aggravated assault, kidnapping, felonious restraint, child stealing, criminal sexual conduct in the first degree, criminal sexual conduct in the second degree, and criminal sexual conduct in the third degree and fourth degree, assault with intent to commit criminal sexual conduct, driving while impaired with a child on board, vehicular negligence, bodily injuries, vehicular homicide while driving, impaired, drinking while driving a motor vehicle, stalking, family violence, and violation of a court order. There's solicitation of children and child pornography, robbery, aggravated arson and arson, home invasion, carjacking, hit and run with injuries, failure to stop, vehicular homicide. Okay, and those who can apply to this is victims, dependents, parents, or any other persons who have incurred expense as a result of a victim's injury or death. And so this commission is in charge of that, carrying out that responsibility. And they can subpoena members of the public. They can also require production of documents, examination of witnesses as well. Okay, and at this time, we did receive testimony by the commission, and I'll read into the record. Madam Speaker, members of the committee, on behalf of the Criminal Injuries Compensation Commission, I'm pleased to submit our full support of the continued appointment of Dr. Lisa D. Flores on the commission. We are pleased that Governor Lou Leon Guerra has approved the continuity of work in the membership of this most invaluable commission, whose mission is to improve the lives of victims of crime. Commissioner Flores brings unique insight from a medical perspective when reviewing victim compensation requests. Victim medical expenses are often a primary focus of our review. Guam law currently permits compensation up to a maximum of $20,000 for medical expenses for victims of violent crime. We see firsthand the pain and suffering of crime victims of all ages. Dr. Flores' background and experience practicing medicine in Guam for over 22 years has been a godsend for the work we do as Victim Compensation Commission. She not only comprehends the nature of traumatic injury, but she brings a particular warmth and sympathy to understanding the pain and suffering victims go through immediately after trauma and the long-term impact of recovery. On behalf of Commissioner Pali Mike Crisostomo, Commissioner Denise Mendiola, and myself, the Honorable Elizabeth Barrett Anderson, we urge your prompt confirmation of Dr. Lisa D. Flores, the Criminal Injuries Compensation Commission. Also, there was information we received in regards to adjudication of claims. So the most recent report that we received January 1st, 2023 to June 30th, 2023, we received this from the Attorney General's office. It's a semi-annual report, and it shows that no awards were made during this period. Prior to that, there was a submission of a semi-annual report, July 1st, 2022 to December 31st, 2022. And the report reflects that Criminal Injuries Compensation Commission awarded a grand total of $71,844 and $44.48. So these are the reports that we received, and we're looking to see if there are other additional updates to this. So at this time, I would like to recognize the nominee. Welcome, Dr. Flores, and please proceed with your testimony, since it was Masi.
Good afternoon, Senator Perez and Senator Kanata. If it's okay, I'm going to go ahead and just read what I have written. Again, my name is Lisa Flores. Although having been before this legislature several times in the past for prior reappointments, again, I'm reintroducing myself. I am Lisa Flores, originally appointed by the Camacho Moylan administration in 2006 to the Criminal Injuries Compensation Commission. Unfortunately, the commission was not an operational body at that time. I was reappointed during the Calvo Tenorio administration back in 2012 and have continued to serve until the present. Under the guidance of Judge Elizabeth Barrett Anderson, who served as the Attorney General in 2015, the CICC was given life to function as it was originally intended. The commission members, Denise Mendiola, Pali Mike Crisostomo, myself, and the dedicated staff from the Office of the Attorney General of Guam helped to develop the operating procedures and application process. The CICC held its first hearing on April 8, 2016, and since then, hundreds of applicants have been awarded thousands of dollars. In addition, several entities, including Guam Memorial Hospital and Guam Regional Medical City, have been paid for services rendered to victims who were otherwise unable to cover for these unforeseen expenses. Since my last reappointment in 2020, the Commission has made several strides in ways to improve the process and purpose of the Commission. We have updated the Guam statutes to include vehicular homicide as one of the crimes covered and provided clearer definitions and wording within the statutes. In addition, we have made changes to our program to ensure compliance with the Victims of Crime Act, and one of these measures included the introduction of Bill number 144-37, which the Governor of Guam signed into law August 11, 2023, that allowed for the protection of victims' personal identifiable information. Again, the consistency and dedication of the current commissioners have been a blessing to the CICC, despite the various challenges that it has had to face over the past several years. Having served 4 terms thus far, I have seen the CIC flourish since its beginnings and look forward to see it continue to grow into the future. in spite of the fact that it is often a painful thought that the CICC was created and unfortunately exists because crimes upon victims occur, there is some comfort in knowing that we as a community continually to make efforts in various ways to right the wrong. Again, I thank you for this opportunity. Si Dios Maasi. And again, this is my testimony.
Thank you, Dr. Flores. I didn't realize that your confirmation on this commission extended that far back. So
Yes.
I appreciate your continued commitment to this commission. And you did receive glowing testimony from the current commission members. So, and I completely see the reason for that. Do you know if, I just have a question, I guess. There's a couple questions and
Sure.
general questions. Do you have any business interest, conflict of interest? Do you see any?
None.
Okay. And are you able to balance your current clinic workload with the duties of the commission?
Otherwise, I would not be doing it, but the CICC has been very accommodating with my schedule, so that has been one of the reasons why I continue to agree to be part of this commission, yes.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for that. And what are some efforts that you have been involved in to improve the response time for the evaluation and determination of applications? I know you mentioned some things like you created the protocol, the SOPs for that.
Again, not just myself, but certainly with the other commissioners. Obviously, Judge Elizabeth Barrett Anderson is kind of the main focus in helping us put together a lot of these changes that have been, has required actually quite a bit of updating in the past year.
And do you have any suggestions based on your experience to continue, I guess, improvement?
There's always going to be improvement. I think of the challenges, part of it relates to challenges within the Office of the Attorney General. Anytime there's changes within that office, it does affect how our committee functions. In the beginning, we did have 2 administrative staff plus one of the deputy attorneys that worked very close with us. With the changes, that has been reduced to just 1 staff member. So it does take a lot of additional time for that staff member. Again, they do a lot of the background work dealing with reviewing the applications, ensuring that we have all the documents at the time of the hearings where we are able to review that information. So the staff is kind of the backbone really to this commission, and without the adequate number of staff and certainly funding towards it is definitely has caused some delays. I think in this past year, especially with the move of the Office of the Attorney General, and there was issues with the ITC building, that we've had to, again, push back some of the hearings as well. So that's been part of it. Without the law that was passed, again, we were kind of in a situation between Guam law requiring us to have the open government and VOCA requiring us that we have to keep the victim's identifiable information confidential. And so having that passed has helped with us kind of moving forward. So that's why, again, there's been a little bit of a delay in the most recent year that we haven't probably pushed out as much hearings as we would have liked. I think our goal eventually is to hopefully do hearings once a month. That would be the ideal, but again, part of it is the initial work that has to be done in vetting all of the applicants.
Okay, and do you have a backlog at this moment in time?
I don't know for sure. I would assume that there would be. Again, I'll be honest, I'm not as sure where the Attorney General office has moved, and I think part of it, we've also looked into trying to figure out how do we get the word out that this commission exists, and where people can actually go to apply. I mean, obviously you look in the news on a regular basis, and unfortunately, there's a lot of victims that we see, and I can't tell you for sure whether these folks are aware of the existence of this commission.
Okay. Yeah, absolutely. I think this is one of the reasons, the importance of this confirmation hearing is to provide some sort of information for the public, because I read out that list, because I know there's, there's a high rate of, we hear always in the news about, crimes, sexual crimes. And, I'm just, it's important that, victims are aware of this compensation fund if they're not already know about it. Do you think it's advisable upon conviction that the court have this information available to victims, or is it already available to victims?
So I'm not involved in the court process, so I can't speak of that. I mean, it certainly would be one way, I guess, to get the word out. There's at least, again, I can't say for sure what information is out there. With some of the programs, I believe with the Attorney General's office, there has been some push, especially when we first started the program. Like I said, it's whether we're a focus of the Attorney General's office in the VOCA portion. I don't know, again, how much advertisement and information is out there.
Okay. Well, just this confirmation hearing alone, I think, is bringing more awareness, I hope. Okay. And then for the semi-annual report, that's provided by the AG's office.
Correct.
So I noticed there wasn't any awards in the beginning of last year. Do you know if that's, and there wasn't any report for the second half of the year last year?
Again, I don't have all of that information off the top of my head, and again, when there's transition within and things going on within the Office of the Attorney General's office, we are on some level affected by that. So if there was transition kind of going on within the staffing, as certainly we hear in the news, it's a ripple effect, and it does affect our commissioner.
Okay, that's important to hear, because we are going to, this is preceding the budget hearing, so this will definitely bring attention to that.
We've appreciated, again, the funding that has been provided, again, for our staff. We are certainly seeking, trying to look at different ways of how we as a specific entity are able to function on some level apart from that, but at the moment, there's a lot more work to be done, and the fact that the commission continues to exist is a positive thing.
Would you recommend potentially bringing on staff? Because if you're mentioning that the AG's office, you're dependent upon their staffing levels. Do you think the commission can take? Do you think it's advisable for the commission to take on staff so that to ensure that continuity exists?
It would be ideal. It's my understanding that there are other jurisdictions that actually have this type of commission completely separate. How they do all their funding, I don't know. And certainly, I think probably Judge Elizabeth Barrett Anderson could probably answer more to that. That is not, at the moment, I don't think that that's going to be an option for right now, and we're just going to have to kind of rely on what the Attorney General's office can provide us.
Okay. And are you familiar with the funding level for the compensation?
I can't give you an exact quote. I want to say it's above $1 million, but again, part of that, it's my understanding that part of it is, again, based on some federal funding and what is received from the courts. So again, I don't have those details in front of me.
Right, so I'm sure it's a changing number, but...
Correct.
Yeah, okay. All right, I think those are my questions, and I do appreciate you accepting the reappointment, and I'm going to open up the floor to my colleague, Senator Kanata, if he has any questions or comments for the nominee.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Dr. Lisa Flores, for taking on this job again. And, you know, you've, since 2006, wow, you've been definitely a tireless advocate. So thank you again for your service, and look forward to supporting you in your endeavors. But is there any particular issue you believe the legislature can provide to enter support to the CICC?
Again, it's going to be dependent on what the Office of the Attorney General requests in regards to budget and funding. I don't know how all that process works, and I'm sure that they have maybe other priorities that kind of may not necessarily have CICC at the top of that list, which is certainly understandable. They've got a lot of other stuff going on. But certainly ensuring that we are part of some type of budget to at least help with the staffing component. Again, where we have been meeting in regards to the hearings for the CICC has been based on where the Attorney General's office is. So again, those are some components that we rely on. As far as the awards, then that's kind of a separate entity, if you would. And again, federal funding has been helpful for that. It would also be, again, we are encouraging others to also participate as in part of the CICC, and you kind of see the same folks because those are the folks that are willing to continue and believe in what the CICC has and its purpose. But I think with anything that takes additional time away from other jobs and activities, and this is for the most part more volunteer, it's hard to get those willing to lend their knowledge to be part of this commission.
Thank you for that information. Do you have a social media budget or platform available at this time? When I used to work at the court, we used to have this pamphlet wall that had like every NGO, every government agency, like pamphlet you could think of, like literally. There was more than like 40, I think, agencies on that wall. And I think it's still available right now. They also have a service center in the middle of the court. But I was just wondering because, you know, we are in a time of social media, so a lot of times information is just not available in paper anymore. It's just more or less digitally marketed. So I understand that you're trying to find more people to reach out to, and I think it would be beneficial for everyone in the community to have access to social media content creation. An example of an infographic on how to, you know, proceed with a claim or proceed with the compensation awarding, because a lot of them probably just don't understand how it works, or they just think that they're filling out a paper and then it just goes into purgatory.
So again, part of that is going to be under the purview of the Office of the Attorney General at the moment, and certainly the victims advocate units are going to be the main focus in driving that at the moment. I mean, unless we have additional staff that is sort of dedicated specifically to the CICC, the staff that we've had in the past are kind of doing part CICC stuff and then part Attorney General stuff, and so they're having to kind of split their time. We currently have somebody that's meant to be a little bit more full-time with us, but again, to do the gathering and vetting of the applicants is extremely time-consuming, and that's kind of the biggest thing that we would probably need help with. Anything extra is obviously going to be just that, extra. And if they have time to do that, that would be great, but we're still under that umbrella of the Office of the Attorney General at the moment. So in the past, we actually had an email that was specifically meant for the CICC, and because that cost an additional amount, that has gone by the way. And, you know, in trying to keep things confidential, we were trying to find ways to manage that. And again, as you know with everything, it's all about sometimes, unfortunately, money. Who's going to pay for things? And that's kind of where we're at. So that's the challenge.
Thank you for that information. On another note, this is my last question. What is your ballpark compensation fund right now? You said it's like over $1 million?
Approximately. It's
Okay.
been kind of holding steady around there so far. So even though we've paid out for awards, there is still some funding that continues to come in. Again, when we're not able to go through the applications, then we're not awarding anything. So we are certainly anxious to kind of get things going at this point. But yes, that's approximately where it stands.
Do you think it would be appropriate to have a matching fund?
That would always be a great option. I mean, we do recognize that, again, a lot of victims out there, as more of the word gets out that the CIC exists, we certainly will get more applicants, and we anticipate if there's any changes with the federal funding for this program, that could potentially dwindle. So, you know, who's not going to refuse additional funds for this purpose?
Thank you. Sorry, Madam Chair, two more questions. I just looked at their infographic. Your compensation chart is medical expenses at 20,000, all other expenses are at 10,000. Can you elaborate how that compensation came about?
It's part of the statutes. When it was first implemented, and I couldn't even tell you the year way back when, but that's how it was originally formulated with the original writers of the legislation, and we've just continued to follow it. And again, we've done a little bit of tweaking just to, again, get clarification on some of the wording to help us with making a decision on awards.
Okay, thank you. I guess we'll have to look into possibly revisiting that, because I think certain costs have risen, and I think that needs to be looked into just to ensure that we're not shortchanging any of these individuals on their compensation.
So just, you know, again, what we do tell the applicants, this is not the only route of restitution. We are not necessarily here to pay everything that that they have been impacted. So there are other avenues that we do encourage the applicants to seek towards. This is just something that can help. And as I mentioned in my testimony, again, there are Government of Guam agencies. For example, Guam Memorial Hospital, again, we do recognize some of the financial issues that they have. They are having to provide care to patients that come in for anything. And if that includes a crime, and again, not all, either they don't have insurance or they have insurance that covers partial, they have unpaid bills to these facilities. And part of, again, our commission, we've tried to ensure that the money is paid directly to those entities and not necessarily a check given to the applicant, and then, you know, do we wait until and hope that they pay back GMH, for example? No, we ensure that the check is written directly to the unpaid bills that have developed from the crimes.
Okay, thank you, Madam Chair. Nothing further. Thank you again for your service, Ms. Lisa. I wish you all the best.
Appreciate that.
Yeah, thank you, Senator Kanata. So I think it's really important you have an email. I mean, that's the basic thing, but you're telling us that there isn't an email at this point.
We used to have individual emails that was specifically for the CICC, but you're correct. We do not have that
No
anymore.
emails. Okay, that needs to be fixed. The other thing is you don't have a place to
Again,
obtain hearings?
before, I think maybe mid-year, I know that there was some plans for movement, and again, I haven't been following how things are going now with the AG's office making some adjustments on where their location is. If they're still at the ITC building, that's where we're going to be. If they've moved to another location, then again, it's going to be wherever the AG's office is.
Okay, so as of this time, there's no place for hearings or receiving evidence at this point?
As far as I know, again, it's wherever their current office
Okay,
is.
so we definitely have to follow through and see to make sure that you guys are functional, because that's a really, you have a very important commission, and to not have these basics is not, yeah, you're not meeting the mandates. I just want to also let the public know that the potential expenses that are covered are not just medical expenses, funeral and burial cost, loss of wages, property damage, and any qualifying costs. So does that include, for instance, therapy? Like, because I know a lot of this leaves lasting scars.
Yes, it can.
So I'm talking about mental health.
The challenges, again, are going to be they have to provide documents. So they have to, in a sense, receive treatment and then provide the billing information to us. But again, the challenge is going to be there is a statute of limitations. Once we make an award, that is done. So they are unable to come back later on to request for additional, I guess, awards. So again, the goal is that this is not going to pay everything. That's not what this really should be intended for. But it is one option that they do have to help with some costs.
Yeah, thank you for answering all these questions, and I do look forward to your confirmation, and appreciate you accepting this reappointment, Dr. Flores, and for your commitment to the people of Guam, since it was Masi. So we will continue to receive any testimony, written testimony. Please address it to Senator terlajeguam@gmail.com, or it can be hand-delivered here at the Guam Congress Building to the Speaker's office. And so at this time, your confirmation hearing is duly heard. The time is now 3:33 p.m. It's Masi.